Hi, welcome to Jaded Health, where we empower you to live a healthy lifestyle and alert you to the deception and marketing tactics used by the food, drug, and weight loss industries who put their profits above your own health. Today, we have a very special guest join us, Ocean Robbins. Welcome, Ocean.
Thanks so much. Great to be with you.
Ocean, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into the health and wellness arena. As a kid, per se, did you always want to be making an impact on people via health?
I always wanted to make a positive impact in the world. My dad used to say to me when I was a little boy, he used to say, the people are happiest who have found the joy of service and contribution. And so, I always took that to heart. But I didn't always know what my service or contribution would actually turn out to be but I kind of come from an interesting legacy. See, my grandpa founded Baskin-Robbins ice cream, 31 flavors. And my dad, John, grew up expected to join in running the family company. But when he was in his early 20s, he was offered that chance. And he said no. And he walked away from a path practically paved with golden ice cream to follow his own rocky road, as we put it in our family, and ended up becoming a best-selling author, writing about food and health and inspiring millions of people to make healthier food choices. My dad is John Robbins, who wrote Diet for a New America, and including my grandpa ended up being one of my dad's readers. My grandpa Irv was on death's door with diabetes and heart disease and weight issues, and his doctors told him he didn't have long to live unless he made big changes, and they gave him a copy of Diet for New America and told him to follow its advice. My grandpa read the book written by his renegade son, and it saved his life. He wound up living 19 more healthy years. So I kind of come from a family of both people that have made a big impact, but also people that have seen the power of food to make money or to make a difference. And, so I've been inspired by that. And, I started Food Revolution Network 12 years ago with my dad. And now I've been the CEO for all 12 years. And we have more than 1 million members today. And our mission is healthy, ethical, sustainable food for all. And I'd like to think we're making a difference for a lot of people now.
And you advocate plant-based, correct?
Yes, we advocate whole foods plant-based. And there's a number of reasons for that. I mean, we see study after study showing us that when we eat more whole foods in their natural state, it's better for our bodies. It's like we weren't designed for chemicals. We weren't designed for added sugars and hyper-processed foods and fried foods and trans fats and so forth. And then if you go a little more nuanced than that, we find that plant-based eaters have a lot more fiber. They have a lot more phytochemicals in their diet. And they tend to live longer. How many studies are there showing us that we need to eat more vegetables and less processed foods, but also moving away from an animal-centric diet, you get less saturated fat, you get more fiber. Fiber is good for your microbiome. We're all hearing about the microbiome. Well, what those good bacteria eat is fiber. That's it. There's no fiber in any animal products. There's fiber in all whole plant foods. So the trajectory can help us to live longer and be healthier and feel better along the way.
And when we're talking about plant-based, we're not talking about the imitation meats that are plant-based with all the chemicals added, correct?
That's why I say whole food plant-based. Those are not whole foods. Those are hyper-processed foods. Whether or not some of those fake meats and so forth are better than meats is an argument we can have, but I don't really care all that much. They're clearly better for animals and better for the environment. They're clearly not healthy, optimal foods for human bodies. Some people find them helpful as transitional foods, and I respect that and I support that. But purely from a health standpoint, eating real food the way God made it seems to be what our bodies are best at.
Today, also, people talk about protein, and watching one of your episodes, you were saying that it's possible that you get too much protein. Could you elaborate a little bit about that?
Yeah, we talk about protein a lot, and we so much of us think we need protein, and protein's awesome. We need, especially the essential amino acids that we need to get from food, right? We need those. But the average American is probably getting more than they need and actually more than they should. And there's research showing, it's kind of like Goldilocks, not too little, not too much. You want it just right. There's an optimal range of protein for the human body. And, there was a study out of University of Southern California led by Dr. Walter Longo, tracked about 5,000 people for 20 years and looked at their protein consumption and their life expectancy. And over the course of the 20 years of that study, the highest protein eaters were far more likely to die than the lowest protein eaters, even when matched, starting at the start of the study for how healthy were they, and they looked at how they fared. It was interesting that he ended up concluding that between the ages of about 30 and 65, for that age group, people who consumed a high protein diet it increased their risk of dying of cancer during the years of the study about as much as smoking 20 cigarettes a day would have done. So clearly for some people, too much protein is actually detrimental. It increases cancer risk and decreases longevity. Now, again, you want to get enough, right? But too much is not so great. Now, interestingly, there's more research coming out more recently that implies that potentially a high protein plant-based diet actually may be just fine. It may actually be something about animal proteins that is carcinogenic. And we now know that red meat is a probable carcinogen, and processed meats are a known carcinogen. And it may be that animal products in general, and it may actually be the protein. We focused a lot on saturated fat, and that may be a concern. They tend to go together, but it may actually be as much the protein, or maybe the animal proteins increase cancer risk. Animal saturated fat increases heart disease risk.
And with protein, there's different types of protein because they're made of different amino acids, correct?
Sure. Yes, and they also come in different packages with a whole food. Unless you're eating, we could argue about which protein powder you should take, but I think you're best off, again, eating a real food. And so what comes with it? And the research seems to be pretty clear that high animal product consumption leads to decreased longevity. Now, we could conjecture why. Is it because of the fiber that's in plant foods? Is it because of the saturated fat that's in the animal products? Is it because of the protein that's in the animal products? There's credible research to back all of these theories up. But what's clear is that when you look at epidemiological studies tracking tens of thousands of people over decades, we find that those people, even within similarly matched economic factors and race backgrounds and even faith backgrounds, people who eat the most animal products tend to die sooner.
That's a very interesting fact. I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. The other thing is, it's not so much the food we're eating, it's more what they've done to the food. As an example, I saw a picture of what a chicken looked like back in the size of a chicken in the 1940s versus the size of a chicken today. And the chickens today are like 4 times the size of the chickens back in the 1940s.
Yeah, the chickens in today's broiler operations, in other words, the chickens raised for meat, are morbidly obese, sort of, and they get morbidly obese so fast. It's the equivalent to if a human infant by the age of 6 months weighed 600 pounds. And under these conditions, they can't walk properly, if at all. And they're so crowded together that they can't even lift a single wing. And they're standing in feces and they're lying in feces because they can't walk. And so these birds they develop sores, they lose feathers. In some operations, 5% of them are dead on the floor before harvest time comes, and they're all killed. So there's dead bodies, there's open sores, morbidly obese birds that can't walk. Not my idea of an ethical operation, but also not something I want to put in my body.
Well, and also what they're feeding the birds with the grains and the other chemicals.
You take an animal and you feed it foods that are designed to make it as fat as possible, as quickly as possible, and then you don't give it any room to move around, and you expose it to zero natural light or fresh air. You're creating conditions for a maximal obesogenicity. And then we wonder why we're getting so overweight. Well, when we're eating animals
let's delve into that when we come back from this quick commercial break.
Hi, I'm Mark Victor Hansen. You know me best as the creator of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, a 1 Minute Millionaire series, and Ask.
Have you ever felt like you're a person that has a story inside you? From the stories of growing up as a kid, going to school, discovering life. We have adventures that we go through, and those adventures shape us to be the people that we become.
I believe you have a book in you, and I want to bring your impact story to life.
Welcome back to Jaded Health. We're joined in our conversation with Ocean Robbins. It's a fascinating conversation about food and what they've done to the food. Ocean, we were talking about the chickens in the previous segment. What I'm curious about is organic versus non-organic. There's a big argument as to if the cost is beneficial to getting organic food products versus non-organic. What's your position on that?
Well, here's the deal. What is organic? Organic means that it was grown without the use of synthetic pesticides, which, by the way, includes biocides that were designed to kill bugs as well as to kill weeds, which are known as herbicides. So it was grown without synthetic pesticides, and it was grown without the use of synthetic fertilizers, and also it means it was not genetically engineered. So let's break that down, and also that they didn't use toxic sewage sludge on the farm. So let's break that down for a moment. Pesticides. These are sprayed on fields to kill weeds or to kill bugs. And they don't just target that weed or that bug. They're biocides. They're designed to kill life. And, the dose determines the poison. So probably you can consume a minute amount of pesticides without it. Certainly you're not going to fall over and die on the spot like bugs do. But over time, what's the impact of consuming these? Well, it's not good. Certainly pesticide consumption is linked to higher rates of cancer. And where we see it the most impactful is in the farm workers who are out there in the fields being sprayed with the stuff all the time. And, it's not pretty. They're dying of cancer in droves. And, the canary in the coal mine, like if you, put a bird in there and it's a sign when the canaries start dying that maybe the coal miners should get out. Well, in some ways it's perhaps similar. If farm workers are dying, maybe that's a sign that food is not such a great thing for the rest of us either.
Well, I also looked at the image.
What's that?
Of the image of the person covered in a complete suit spraying the plants, and it's like
on food we're about to eat, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I know. It's what's wrong with this picture, right? So that's pesticides, and then herbicides, by the way, which are part of that class, are weed killers like Roundup from Bayer, formerly Monsanto. The primary active ingredient in Roundup is glyphosate, which is a probable carcinogen according to the World Health Organization. It's banned in California under Proposition 65, meaning it's considered by the state of California to cause cancer. It's also an endocrine disruptor, and it has also been patented as an antibiotic. And this is an interesting thing a lot of folks don't know. But in fact, it seems that it kills bacteria. So what do you think is the impact on us of consuming weed killer in large amounts that kill bacteria, getting it into our bodies? Is it possible that there's a correlation, or a connection rather, between the increasing consumption of glyphosate in human beings through our food system, which is primarily enabled, by the way, by genetic engineering, because we've got GMO crops that are engineered to withstand it, and all the food intolerances that are springing up? Because in one study, there's 4 times as many people getting hospitalized with food allergy outbreaks than there were a generation ago. And this is perhaps directly linked to gut imbalances. How much of that might be caused by glyphosate? Well, we don't know. Correlation is not causation. But when there's a correlation this strong, you got to wonder, because the amount of glyphosate being put on our fields has increased, vastly in the last generation with the advent of GMO agriculture. Okay, so that's pesticides and herbicides and that whole class of compounds. Then there's artificial fertilizers or chemical fertilizers, which are like, they are like steroids for the plants. They just make them go, bing, I'll grow really fast and really big, with less flavor, by the way. But they don't have all the nutrients necessarily that a plant would have if it gets it from the soil. So, I personally prefer more natural plants, though I appreciate that chemical fertilizers, at least in the short run, can make plants grow faster and increase yield, right? But potentially at long-term cost to soil health and well-being. And then they're also not being having sewage sludge put on them. I'll leave that for another argument. I'm not a big fan of having sewage sludge on my food, but I believe in composting human waste. I think we should do it in a better way, though. In any case, last but not least, organic crops are not genetically engineered. And, GMOs have been engineered for the most part to withstand herbicides like glyphosate. And also some of them have been engineered to be pesticide producers. They actually produce insecticide in every cell of the plant, which, reduces the need for pesticides in those specific situations from the outside, because the plants are literally registered with the EPA as pesticides. But you can't wash the stuff off. And although BT is the main insecticide in question, it's in every cell of the plant. It's probably safe for humans, but I don't know anybody who wants to drink the stuff. And when you're eating GMO crops, they are potentially, having that in every cell. So organic means you're saying no to all that. All that said, not every crop is genetically engineered. Mainly it's corn and soy and canola and sugar beets and alfalfa. So if you go organic on those crops or certified non-GMO, you're getting rid of most of your GMO exposure. And, most of these studies, we have thousands of studies showing us that people do better when they eat more vegetables. Most of those vegetables were not grown organically. So if you're choosing between, say, an organic donut and non-organic kale, go for the kale, right? If you can't afford organic, don't let that stop you from eating lots of vegetables and whole plant foods, because they're still good for you. Don't make the perfect the enemy of the good. But if you can afford to go that next level, you will be reducing your pesticide exposure. You will potentially be getting higher nutrient value, and you will be contributing to a more sustainable food system with less farm workers being exposed to toxins in the workplace and animals potentially being treated better if you choose to eat them.
Wow, that was fascinating information. A lot of people don't know this. I wasn't aware of the antibiotics, for the plants either. So I appreciate your informing and telling us this. There's a big debate about eggs, whether they're good for you or bad for you. And there's a funny commercial on the Super Bowl with the time where eggs are good for you, eggs are bad for you. You had a segment about eggs. Could you go into a little bit of detail? We'll start the conversation and then we'll cut to a commercial break in about a minute. But
okay,
what about eggs today?
Well, honestly, my biggest concern about eggs is an ethical one. I talked earlier about the way that chickens are treated, broiler chickens in factory farms. Well, the way that laying hens are treated is just, in my view, horrendous. Picture 5 birds in a cage so small that they can't lift a single wing. They're packed in there on wire slats. Their poops falling on the heads of the birds below. Their eggs roll into conveyors that catch them. And they live there for their entire miserable lives. Their talons grow into the wire and get meshed there and stuck. They're not meant to stand on wire. They're meant to peck around in the dirt. They never see the sun or a blade of grass in their entire miserable lives. And as soon as they stop laying productively, they're murdered. I don't want to be a part of a system like that. And I don't want to eat food that comes from a system like that. And of course, it's horrendously contaminated with pathogens because they're so sick and miserable. So you've also got the dangers of salmonella and foodborne bacteria and all these kinds of pathogens. Now, birds that are running around in an open field, which is pasture raised, by the way, even free range or cage free are not what they're cracked up to be, so to speak. But pasture raised is a step in the right direction, big step in the right direction. Those birds have 70 square feet of space and they run around outside. I don't have the ethical concerns. From a health standpoint, eggs are high in saturated fat and cholesterol. They have no fiber, but they have some nutrients. I don't think the human body has a need for them. Do they have benefit? Yeah, for some people, maybe. Not huge. I know we need to go to commercial.
Yeah. We're going to go to commercial. We'll be right back, and then we'll talk some more with Ocean Robbins. Thank you.
It's snack time. I've had a lot of beef sticks, but maybe the best grass-fed beef stick is from Paleo Valley. And if you haven't tried the teriyaki flavor, look at these ingredients. It's crazy.
Yes, it's made from 100% grass-fed beef, but sweetened with raw honey. And how do they make the teriyaki? With real spices and coconut nectar here. But maybe one of my favorite things is this. All the beef sticks are naturally fermented.
When they're naturally fermented, they're easier to digest. And if you go to Paleo Valley's website, you can get 50% off the beef sticks using my promo code Delicious. Bobby approved, best in class, keto, paleo. You gotta try it.
Introducing Steady Straps, the elastic that keeps your phones secure. Steady Straps are soft, adjustable, and non-adhesive grips that are designed for one-handed use. They're great for running, shopping, taking video, and more. Installation is quick and simple, so you don't have to choose just one. Steady Straps are durable, washable, and long-lasting. Everyday, everywhere use, in comfort, style, and convenience. Buy Steady Straps now.
Welcome back to Jaded Health. We're visiting with Ocean Robbins. We were talking about eggs, and we're going to delve a little bit deeper into that. Ocean, you had some more information to share with us about eggs?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think that they're not a panacea for health. They, have some potential nutritional benefits for some people. A lot of people have just fundamental ethical concerns about the fact that the birds, once they stop laying, are either going to need to eat for the rest of their lives or they're going to be killed. And so from an ethical standpoint, some folks don't feel good about that. But I think, backyard chickens can have a place in a healthy ecosystem if they're treated right. And everyone can just make their own decisions about what their ethics are on that. Health-wise, factory farmed eggs, I just think are not worth the tremendous ethical cost and the potential foodborne pathogen cost. And again, they're high in cholesterol, which is not the villain that we thought it was at one time, but it's still, dietary cholesterol is not something that we need to consume. And they're pretty much the highest cholesterol food out there. They're also very high in saturated fat. And again, super free of all fiber. So I don't think eggs are anything great. But, if you can access pasture raised or have a backyard chicken or two or a few in a hen coop, do what makes sense for you.
Okay. And just to clarify, pasture eggs are different than cage-free. Cage-free means that the hen has the ability to get outside, but most likely
not
won't.
even. Cage-free means the hen is in a large space rather than a small space. So, caged birds are typically, they'll have like 5 of them in a space, it's like 5 feet cube or whatever, it's small area on wire slats. Cage free means they can run around, but they may still only have 1 square foot per bird.
Yeah.
Or
what I'm getting to the point is it's a marketing gimmick on the carton where they say cage free.
And even free range just means they have some space to get outside. And maybe they have enough room to lift 1 wing, but not necessarily 2 wings. They may just have like 1 little paddock outside they never visit. And it just literally means they have to have some fresh air. Whereas birds that are caged probably never see and never have any fresh air in their entire lives. But they still may, free range may still be in barns and still not have any real room to move around. Pasture raised, on the other hand, actually means they have serious space and they were outdoors. At least
exactly. And that's the importance to not fall prey to the marketing tactics from the food industry.
Exactly.
Excellent. Let's talk about supplements a little bit. A lot of people feel that you may not get all the nutrition and nutrients you need on a whole plant-based diet. And what's your position on supplements?
So first of all, I'm a big fan of getting your nutrients from food as much as possible, because study after study shows that food is like a symphony. And anytime you isolate things, it's like the trumpets don't sound great on their own necessarily. Trombones certainly don't. Put it together and you get something, a whole that's greater than the sum of its parts. And human bodies, we've developed to the wisdom of our ancestors and all of their dietary journeys. Our bodies have developed to eat food, not pills, right? That said, there are a few nutrients that turn out to be beneficial. Not most of the supplements out there, not most of the multivitamins out there. They're loaded with things, some of which are actually detrimental. Vitamin E is a good example. Vitamin E in food is great. People with high vitamin E levels are healthier. People who take vitamin E supplements are more likely to get cancer. It does not increase life expectancy, it decreases it. So that's a good example. But at least for most people, right? Now, there are some supplements that can be beneficial. So here's the list, okay? for exclusive vegans, and actually just about everybody else, B12 is a good idea. About 20% of the US population is deficient in B12, even including omnivores. But there is no B12 found in a strictly vegan diet. It's actually not necessarily in animal products. They get it when it's fed to them in their feed, and also when they get some dirt in their bodies, in their lives, as if they're grazing in a field, because actually B12 is in soil. In the modern world, we probably used to get it even from dirt in our fingernails when we were eating, but nowadays our food is so hygienic, and so we're not getting our B12 reliably there. Some people make it in their intestines, but not necessarily in a manner that serves our needs entirely. So B12 supplements a great idea for just about everyone on a regular basis, but especially strict vegans. Vitamin D is the next one. Our ancestors got it from the sun. It's really not much in food. It's in, cod liver oil, and it's in mushrooms. But for the most part, we should probably be taking a bit of vitamin D3 as a supplement form. And there's pretty good research out there that most of us have our blood levels lower than is optimal. Even the so-called normal range may not be optimal. Optimal is probably a little high end of that. And so you can get tested if you want to know where you stand. But a lot of people find that when they take 2,000 IUs a day, some honestly even 5,000 or 7,000 IUs a day, but get your levels checked if you're going to get up to the higher range there. They get sick less, they have better immune health, they have better bone health, and they feel better. So D3 is a really good one. It's sometimes called the sunshine vitamin. And it may be part of the reason why we tend to get sick less in the summer is that we're getting more sun exposure, whereas we get colds in the cold season in the winter, potentially because our D levels are lower. So that's a good one to consider. And then omega-3 fatty acids, which you can get from food. You can get them either from fish, or you can get them from flax and chia seeds and walnuts and a few other plant foods. And you want to have some source. And the long chain omega-3s, EPA and DHA, are only found in certain forms of wild fish, especially, and in algae, which is where the fish get it from. So recommended for a lot of folks to consider a supplement. The benefit of a supplement over getting it straight from a fish is that you're avoiding exposure to heavy metals. And also the fishing industry is increasingly unsustainable because we're basically strip mining the oceans. There's way more demand for fish than there are fish in the seas. And if we keep going like this, we're going to run out of fish in the oceans. So good idea to not consume fish if you don't feel like it's necessary.
Yeah, chia seeds, walnuts, other sources.
Flax seeds and algae-based EPA and DHA. And then, some people, those are the big ones. Some people also find that it's beneficial to get a little zinc, little selenium, little magnesium. Those are the big ones that we see, folks. And vitamin K2 is unknown right now. We can make it from K1, which is in lots of vegetables. K2 isn't found in most foods in the plant kingdom. It's found in fermented foods and some animal products. It seems to be good for bone health and other things. Probably a good idea till we learn more to either eat some natto, which is a fermented soy product. You just need like a teaspoon a day and boom, you got gobs of K2, or potentially take a K2 supplement in some form. We just don't know for sure. Most people probably make it from K1, but there's no easy blood test.
Okay. We're running out of time, but I want to get, how can people reach out and contact you if they want to get more information and learn more from you?
Well, check out my latest book, Real Superfoods, Everyday Ingredients to Elevate Your Health. This is like an amazing book. I'm so proud of it because it's super beautiful. It's like an art book. But this is about the real superfoods, which are the foods that can do the most good for the most people. Not super fancy marketing budget foods, but foods that are super nutritious, super affordable, super accessible, and super delicious when you know what to do with them, which is why it's a cookbook. So Real Superfoods is available wherever good books are sold. You can also go to foodrevolution.org to learn more about our work and join the food revolution. Our mission is healthy, ethical, sustainable food for all. We've got online masterclasses and courses and a blog with hundreds and hundreds of articles on critical food and health topics and recipes and resources and summits and films, all to help you have the information you need to thrive.
This has been fantastic. Congratulations on the book. It's a cookbook, so there's recipes in there, and I know those recipes are delicious, and they're very healthy for you. They're very affordable. thank you so much for being a guest today. I really appreciate your taking the time and spending it with us. This is Jaded Health. We look forward to seeing you on our next episode.